County Football Review. I'm Ramon Scott, and I'm joined by Adam Paul of ECPreps. And Adam, a big story just keeps getting bigger on Madison Avenue right now. The El Cajon Valley Braves, what a performance against the Coronado Islanders. My friend, you did the research. I know it's a hard statistic to find, but maybe something just would have stood out in your mind if you remember great turnarounds of teams. Do you think that the Braves' 93-point turnaround in the victory over Coronado on Friday after the 76-0 defeat last year and the 21-7 win on Friday night, has there ever been any bigger turnaround in your mind in 1 year against one opponent?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, not that I'm aware of, in doing the vast research on it. I mean, the largest I think I remember seeing was like about 30 points. And I don't even remember what there were so many games. I don't even really remember who that was. It's kind of a niche record, if you will. So maybe, obviously it's not an official record, but it's kind of a cool stat to bring up, because, record to bring up, because last year how obviously dominant Coronado was, to this year with El Cajon circling that game on the schedule and playing the way that they did, so yeah, I mean, with them getting the big 20-7 win, that's pretty impressive.
Adam, Clarence Johnson caught a 70-yard touchdown pass from Joe Malone on the first play of the game. The Braves, they're now 3-0. El Cajon Valley has had hot starts before in recent years. Then they've gone back down. But this feels a little bit more special than that 2016 team. Demarius Hyde continued to be unstoppable on the ground. He carried the ball 21 times. He was kind of limited, but they all made big plays in the game. The Braves, Adam, I just couldn't be happier for them. I know you're proud of this group. Guys like Mario Jacobs, Kevon White, just a great story, just not only from the team's success on the field, but their overall success that the coach Osborne continues to heap on them, as men, as great characters.
Yeah, like we've talked about it, in the previous shows, and even even off camera. It was just, if they hadn't won another game all year, they won that first game of the year. It was our thought that they would, be in the playoffs for Division 5. Well, I mean, with the way they're going, they're going to get a high seed in Division 5. Have a home game. I mean, I can't recall the last time that happened. It's got to be over 10 years, at least since 05 maybe. So, they keep doing their thing, stay healthy and whatnot. The sky's the limit for El Cajon Valley, especially in Division 5.
Yeah, I'm excited. I keep kind of wanting to downplay it a little bit because I don't want the Braves to get ahead of themselves. But all the work they've done so far has already paid big dividends as it relates to later in the season, and they'll see that later. As tough as the league schedule still is going to be, still, you know what? I'm really looking forward to those league games now and seeing how well the Braves do in those games. And I just think it's going to be great times, especially come November for El Cajon Valley.
If they can, let's say they start 5-0 going into league, 5-6-0 going into league or whatever. If they pull out a win in league, that's like the ultimate confidence booster, because they haven't won a league game in quite some time. And that will definitely boost their playoff rating, as you and I like to call it.
Yeah.
Coach Osborne, he preaches, teamwork and leadership and stuff. And I think the kids, they could have gone down the tank after losing 18 straight games or whatever, but you know what? They bought into the program, into what's going on, and there's excitement on campus. Talked to a couple friends of mine who are alumni of El Cajon Valley, and it's pretty cool what's going on over there right now.
Yeah, and I could talk about them for several more minutes, but they're going to get more headlines this week. It's going to be a tough game. They're playing Claremont. Claremont, their only loss was a forfeit loss when they couldn't field the team, and then they beat Maranatha Christian. The Braves are rated higher in those computer rankings, but it's at Claremont, so I think that equalizes it a bit. This is another big game. Even if the Braves don't win, it's still okay, but this is a game they can win.
Yes, most definitely.
Like they could win. They will win. They probably feel like they.
Yeah, it's one of those games that the teams are pretty equal, I think, and they got to get on the bus and ride over to Claremont. So that's always an interesting deal. Getting on the bus for a varsity game. But once they get on the field, it's pick 'em. I think they, like you said, they have a real shot at winning that game.
Dave, two top teams met this past Friday night, and Granite Hills couldn't follow the lead of the Steel Canyon Cougars and go to the Madhouse and defeat the Warhawks. But really, they did play pretty well, and they even limited Keontae Springs to less yards than Steel Canyon did. But a couple of pick sixes kind of helped out, and you see the final score 39-29. So maybe it was a relatively even game. A couple of mistakes by the Eagles cost them in that one. I don't think it's going to cost them too much in the overall scheme of things. They played pretty well. They'd probably like to shore it up a little bit. Springs is a tough player to defend, but the Warhawks led 32-9 in the third quarter of that one. So just a little bump in the road for the Eagles, huh, Adam?
Yeah, to spot Madison 14 points off 2 pick sixes, that's always a tough thing to come back, a tough cookie to come back from. But the fact that they were down 32-9 at half, I believe it was, or whatever the halftime score was, to come back and pull within, 32-29, that's got to be a confidence boost. The fact that they can come back, and that Macomb, he threw 4 touchdowns. Of course, had the 3 interceptions, but he showed that he's a pretty decent quarterback. For having no experience coming into the season. To go into Madison is always such a weird place to play anyways.
Yeah, here's the thing for Justice. I know you're upset with those picks, 3 picks overall, but this was the biggest football game you played in. They did very, very well. They still, put points on the board. Johnson, another nice night, 6 catches, 94 yards, and the 2 touchdowns. So live and learn. You're a junior. And you're probably going to make those plays next time, going in and playing your toughest road game of your career. It's early in the season, 2 top 15 teams. No problem in this one. We want to win them all. Maybe we thought we were going to win, but I don't think it's any problem for the Eagles moving forward, Adam. Next week, Granite Hills, I think their situation, they're hosting Westview. So I look for them to get back on track, eliminate the mistakes. Yes. And it's going to be an easy it'll be a solid victory. They'll just take care of business.
Absolutely. Get back to Eagle business, like they did against Mount Carmel at home, dominating defense and, put up some offensive numbers, and they'll get back to the winning ways and, just push the Madison game behind you. It's all you got to do. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but I think, Coach Cobbs will have the troops ready to go Friday night.
Also mention, Adam, Jacob Setterberg with another touchdown reception, and I'm going to say his name again this week, Matthew Keeley, his 4th interception of the season. I'm going to keep track of that. I don't think anyone else has 4 in the county, so pretty good. And also Granite Hill, 283 total yards. So things are fine.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, a little bit concerned here as Monta Vista went to Patrick Henry. Look, Henry, this is a totally revamped situation. They're doing very, very well. Nice job, Patrick Henry, for sure. But a little bit worrisome that Monta Vista led this game really for the entire game and then lost it in the end. Maybe it just shows they, didn't quite have the muster to get there the entire way. But I'm sure they're upset with allowing 39 points. Isaiah Gardner did rush for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns, but the Patriots rally on that new field, their second ever home game on the renovated stadium, Adam. But boy, it was 28-13 Monarchs at one point, and the Patriots come back to win.
Yeah, Coach O'Sullivan, rallied the troops, and Matthew Castillo, 28 of 48 for 346 yards and 5 touchdowns. Defensively, they came up big, made the plays when they had to. Ray Bernard had 13 tackles and an interception. Josiah Lawson had 7 tackles, a sack, and a fumble recovery for the Patriots. From what I heard, it was probably the most onside kicks ever witnessed in a game. From what I was told from PJ, who was out there for taking photos for me, every time Monta Vista basically kicked an onside kick, he'd never seen so many onside kicks before. So that was interesting.
The Monarchs were performing the onside kicks to try to get the ball back.
I guess so. I mean, every time. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they don't have a kicker. I mean, I don't know.
If you're dealing with such an explosive offense, I mean, look at the type of game they got hung up in. I mean, what's the if you're kind of allowing points, what's the difference between a 50-yard field and an 80-yard field? I don't know, but
right.
That's the consideration there. But also, how about former Helix basketball standout Kai Jesse? He looked like a football player with those 2 touchdowns.
Absolutely. He's such an athlete. As you and I saw him play, basketball over there at Helix, do his thing there. And then obviously he's transferred to Henry, a couple touchdowns. Just continue his athleticism from one school to the next.
Well, Isaiah Gardner's 69-yard touchdown run gave the Monarchs a 36-31 lead late, but it was Jesse that had the catch for the decisive touchdown in that one. I want to mention Xavier Leyva, a 12-yard touchdown run for Monta Vista early in the contest. So next week, we'll talk about some of these other games later. I think we'll preview some of the games, but I'll mention a nice game coming up this week. 2 teams really looking for a win, Monta Vista and Christian. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Adam, I took this one in, and I would say the score was closer. The game was closer than the score indicated, but then again, it wasn't. El Capitan kind of kept it close and trailed by just 1 score at halftime. But boy, Amari Ari of San Diego, a freshman, Adam, he really made my jaw drop with his 4 touchdowns and 2 incredible runs, making, dare I say, some Reggie Bush-like moves. Ari's father was a linebacker apparently at Mount Miguel.
Yes.
Also had a great rushing performance against the El Cajon Valley Braves. I noted 320 yards he had in the game without a touchdown. Well, how about his son went out and scored 4 touchdowns in this big varsity game for San Diego? They keep moving up the charts. Their power ranking is actually higher than their media poll ranking. I don't know if that's probably going to change real soon. I think everyone's going to start hopping on this San Diego bandwagon again. Can I say that? I don't know. I think we all love what San Diego's doing. But when I talked to Coach James last week on the phone, he said, we're still young. And, well, I want to believe him, and you look at the roster, and indeed, they are young. They had to replace 22 guys off the roster last year. But you know what? These 27 guys they got, I think probably 20 of them are underclassmen. They're pretty awesome. They had another freshman score a touchdown in the game, and we know, of course, Mo Jackson is only a junior. I want to note that they lost their one of their big linemen to look like a season-ending injury, possibly his right knee. He was stayed on the sidelines, but he had it all wrapped up and ready to go to the hospital after the game. So for the El Capitan Vaqueros, Wickhauser did pretty well. Kalen Lavallee did really, really well. He continues to look great. Man, he has really good hands. He went up for a ball. He goes up for the ball, catches the ball at a high point, and comes down with it. Great leaping ability. El Capitan, though, just not going to be able to keep up with this San Diego team right now.
Yeah, when you and I talked about this game earlier in the week, I know we thought maybe it would be a close game, and like you said, it was only a one-score game at half. And as I was noticing it on social media, as I was at my game and giving updates to Coach Quintera and his deal, and then San Diego just went zoom in the second half, with Mo Jackson, taking off, and then, like you said, Ari taking off, and then the other freshman kid. Defensively, it seemed like they played pretty well in the second half. Also, of course, like you said, Wickhauser had a good game, and Lavallee, I'm really impressed by him. That game going back the previous week against Hilltop, when he had 3 touchdown catches and over 100 yards receiving. He's an all-leaguer, Moni. He is definitely, in my opinion, a potential first-team all-leaguer. He's got some of the best hands I've seen in quite some time for his receiver. Like you said, he made a phenomenal catch there. Made a couple phenomenal catches in the Hilltop game. If they can get the running game going, Donnie Green, Taylor Grasmick.
Both of them ran pretty well.
Yeah. I think El Cap will be okay. They got some stuff to work on, obviously, but I didn't hear about many penalties. Were there a lot of any penalties in that game, Moni?
Yeah, there were a few. Definitely. Also want to mention just want to mention a little bit more about the Cavers since I took that in. But that freshman, Curtis Rogers, a 46-yard touchdown reception. And one of the big things about how the game kind of, El Capitan, as well as they played in the first half, twice. San Diego returned the kickoff for touchdowns. So that speed that San Diego had, it was lethal, youthful speed, if you will, and that helped them keep that lead going in the first half, and then it got to be too much in the second half. So Antoine Yokley returned an interception, 42 yards, 6.5 minutes into the third quarter, and that brought El Capitan to within 39-29. Grasmick had a 3-yard touchdown run, and Donnie Green had 3 consecutive runs where he ran over 10 yards, and he capped it off with a big touchdown run, a 21-yard scamper that actually gave El Cap the lead at 7-6 in the first quarter. So we talked about Monta Vista last game, and their loss to Patrick Henry, and it's Patrick Henry that's going to come into Lakeside next week. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Adam, not great news over at Christian High, that Soldotna team. We wondered how good a team from Alaska would be, one that's ranked number 1 in the state right now. That's a division state title winner several years running and have won overall state titles in Alaska. And how good would they be, and how much is Christian trying to develop and find their rhythm right now, the rhythm that we're expecting, but it really didn't come to too much fruition to Soldotna, 42-7 over the Patriots.
Yeah, like I said, not knowing how good the competition is in Alaska and how good this team was. Obviously, what you and I read up on and we talked about, they've won the state title in a previous year, and they're consistently ranked in the top, their top 5. They're the number 1 team in Alaska. So I mean, like I said, I didn't know very much about them. I wondered how Christian was going to do. Um, you know, so like I said, they lose 42-7. So obviously, Sultana came in with a game plan and executed it very well. And unfortunately, they became the buzzsaw.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about Christian a little more in a few minutes when we talk about maybe their game next week against Monta Vista. I will mention Gabe Krug, 120 yards, and he had a couple of nice runs and passes. And Christian Salacup, he was on the back end of a 29-yard pass play on a hook and ladder play. And Salacup had 5 catches for 64 yards. Todd Beasner caught a couple of passes for 40 yards, but Soldotna had nearly 300 yards rushing on the night. Let's just talk about the next game. We'll come back to Christian in a little bit. West Hills, I didn't quite get the story, and maybe we'll find out more about it as the week goes along, but I think they had some logistical problems getting rolling out of San Diego County as they headed up to, I think the game was actually in Whittier, at
Yes.
Whittier Pioneer High School, and they end up losing a close game. West Hills, I believe, takes the lead 6-0 at halftime, and Santa Fe got the game-winning score sometime in the second half. So didn't really know much about the game. We did get some of the stats on it, but sounds to me like things were just out of sync.
Yeah, from what my understanding from a couple people I heard from, the bus broke down or something, and they hadn't gotten out of San Diego County, and they weren't sure if they were going to be able to make it, but obviously they did. I had heard from one of the people that told me they thought they had heard that West Hills had forfeited the game because they couldn't make it. But then I saw the score posted on the coaches group on Facebook, so obviously that wasn't the case. And then when I texted another person, they told me, yeah, the bus had broken down, but they were fine. They were able to, get situated and get on up there, and 7-6 from, excuse me, reading about, from a couple of accounts of people who actually were at the game. They said that West Hills could have tied the game, but their special teams, the kid missed the extra point.
Okay. Well, we did see that Cole Klingerman wasn't bothered by the problems getting to the game. He played great, 7 receptions for 77 yards. He was the one that had the touchdown. Adam, I don't know if you saw that highlight. Cole had, it was kind of, they had a defensive set over on the right side against the receivers, and when Cole made his move, and I think there might have been someone either on one of the sides of him, all the defenders kind of piled into each other a little bit, or just saw each other and tried to get out of the way of each other. Cole got right by him, and he was wide open, and all the other guys were like, "Where's the receiver go?" And he got behind them for the touchdown. And I will mention, look at West Hills, the quarterbacks. They were extremely efficient. 10 of 13 passing. That's not a lot of passing. We're trying to groom these guys along. Coach Ash has Hernandez and the sophomore Braden Oberg. So they were efficient. Maybe they weren't threatful, but they didn't really make any mistakes. Not a lot of yardage, though, for West Hills. Jake Mayhew had 51 yards. Stephen Christini rushed for 45 yards. Next week, West Hills has to get this win at home against Chula Vista, a team they should beat.
Oh yeah, they should beat Chula Vista. They get the run game going. That little two-head run game monster of Mayhew and Christini. I think they'll be fine. Coach Ash, he's always got a game plan. It's just a weird deal, I guess, that happened Friday night. So, I don't know how good Santa Fe is or isn't. So will it hurt them? Who knows? I mean, that's up to the powers to be, how they'll what kind of score they'll give them on that. I think that it gives them confidence in the future. if you can put a spin on it, that the troubles or whatever happened didn't affect them to the point where they got blown out.
Yeah, and I
Does
think
that make sense?
Yeah, and I'll add to it right now. I just want to correct myself. It was Santa Fe that scored the touchdown in the first half, led 7-0 at halftime, and then you're right, the touchdown in the second half, missing the extra point. That was the difference, 7-6. The concern for me would be that you mentioned we don't know about, and Santa Fe, they do play a little bit tougher up there, but they were not winning games on the field. Don't quote me on it, but maybe they'd only won like 2 of their last 13 games or so, and West Hill did handle them pretty soundly with that good club that they had last year in Plan T. So I think that's the concern of that moving forward. But that's good news. I mean, Chula Vista, West Hills, hey, they got to play up to it this week. They have to beat Chula Vista. They should beat Chula Vista. It might be tough, might be tougher than we thought, but Chula Vista hasn't looked that great, and West Hills better take care of business.
Yes.
Okay, and there was one 8-man football game. Of course, our Foothills Christian Knights. Tony Morose passed for 179 yards. Jason Oliveira returned a kickoff for a touchdown and caused a fumble. I'm reading right out of the paper on this one. We don't get much from him, but I want to shout him out.
Absolutely.
And he also caused a fumble that he recovered for a touchdown. So nice job. Next week at Seyout Field, if you want to take in a game of 8-man football, if you've ever seen it, right there over there by Parkway Middle School. And Adam, the team that they're bringing in, Avalon. Now, Foothills Christian, they're the defending 8-man champs. They're a very good team. Avalon is a pretty good team, too. Foothills Christian went out to Avalon, 26 miles across the sea, and won at Avalon on the island last year. But this Avalon team, I just looked it up. I didn't take a note before the game, but they beat some team last week, like 73-36, something like that. So maybe there's going to be a good ball game. You're looking to take something in, little 8-man football. I don't know if you have anything on that, but I just thought it was interesting with this team from Santa Catalina coming in.
No, just seeing the scores that Foothills is putting up, I think they got a good shot at repeating as 8-man champions this year. I'm not too familiar with many of the other teams, so I do apologize. But no, good things for Foothills. They're good kids. You and I do have a mutual friend who is very involved over there at Foothills, and everything I've read and heard, that good things going on for that program.
Adam, I'll just preview. We got a few minutes left. We didn't get to talk too much this week because we didn't have many games, so we'll just talk for a few more minutes and catch up on some of those teams. I think might be a good idea. But just want to mention, last night there was no coverage in the UT, but how about Tyler Buckner of Bishops with an incredible game? Bishops totally underrated right now. I think they're going to start getting some votes in the media poll top 10. Don't know if they're playing tough enough competition to really warrant going up in the power rankings. They will go up because they're going to keep winning. But this was their toughest opponent of the season yesterday in Mater Dei, and he put up, over 700 yards of total offense from his quarterback spot. He's a Notre Dame commit. They have other good commits on that team. They're a really legit team that really is, I don't think they're flying under the radar necessarily. I think maybe they are. They're not anymore after this. But this game was, brushed aside because it was a Saturday game. But I was reading the Bodie's updates off of Twitter and seeing those numbers. They only play easier competition after this. Will they let up? Are they going to try to get this kid some more big yards like this? What do you think?
For him to come back after missing pretty much all last season, getting injured in that first game last year against Grossmont, to do what he's doing right now is really impressive. Granted, like you said, last night or Saturday night was probably the toughest game on their schedule against Mater Dei Catholic, who also played Grossmont the previous week. I think it's going to come down, I don't know. I think the coaches over there at Bishops will let them play. Will be full games. I think though maybe it just depends on what the scores are. I mean, because if you remember a couple years ago when they had Moses Mooney and those guys who were putting up points and stuff, there were games where Mooney and the quarterback, sorry if I don't remember his name, where they didn't play bits and pieces in the second half, and because he could have put up more stats and stuff, and I don't know, I think he's definitely legitimate because he's obviously, he's a Notre Dame commit. You're Notre Dame, as well as you and I know, Moni, doesn't hand out commitments to anyone off the street.
Yeah, and they have other players too, like Freeman, right? And I think that was Jackson was their quarterback.
Yes.
That was with Mooney. So
yes,
great job there, and hopefully the more people will talk about that performance this week. Did you look at where it stood in the record book? What were the numbers again?
Well, he had one of the greatest performances as a player with 445 yards passing and 269 yards running, 9 total touchdowns, 5 through the air, 4 on the ground. In the big 71-42 win over Mater Dei Catholic. They scored on every possession from what I was reading and from what I heard. And then I was reading today that they had 821 yards of total offense as a team. That to break Grossmont's record from a week prior against the same Mater Dei Catholic team of 817 yards.
Mater Dei, they're going to be suffering from neck injuries. Watching the opponent go up and down the field. I mean, I'm not making fun of Mater Dei. Great.
No.
And this is a different era, man. It's a different era. These records are going to get beat too. Teams are going to. We used to marvel when 2 teams would combine for over 1,000 yards. Remember?
Right. Yeah. Well, what's interesting? I was also reading that Bishops actually took Grossmont's game plan of the high tempo offense and used it. So, they ran basically Grossmont's offense and it worked for them.
Okay, well, let's run down the schedule for this week, just because so many teams had buys, and maybe we can just catch up with these a little bit, and I'll just kind of maybe go, I don't know, in any particular order, but I mean, the big game isn't the big game anymore. I mean, I'm sorry, Helix, Helix at Cathedral. The Dons have to be a big favorite over everybody they play, with all due respect to my Highlanders right now. I mean, got to consider them a multi-touchdown underdog. What this team is doing at Cathedral is incredible. Interestingly, Cathedral players have said to a reporter that we know, what the team they kind of do worry about is Helix because of Noah. So they're going to be taking this seriously. And, I know Helix needs to find a win. They need to find a way to pull off a big upset. The funny thing about Helix is sometimes they get caught napping and games are supposed to win, and then they'll stun somebody when they're not gonna. And that's what they'll have to do next week.
Yeah, this is going to obviously be the highest ranked opponent, at least in my memory, to come into La Mesa to take on a Highlander team out there. Also, looking at their schedule, and in my honest memory, there's a possibility, Monty, that they could be 1-4 after these next couple games. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a distinct possibility. And in my memory bank, I cannot remember a time when Helix started the season 1-4. And like you said, Cathedral definitely is the big favorite. If they put odds on this game, I would say they are a 14 to 17 point favorite.
Yeah, and they could win by more than that right now. I mean, what they're doing is unprecedented. We're looking at a team that's moving, so high up right now. Definitely third in the state. I think that just because of the few matchups that have occurred between the top 6 teams in the state right now. Cathedral has earned the right to be ranked 3rd in the state. Now they've moved in to the top 10 power rankings, and mostly in everyone, there's a few national polls, and Cathedral moving up into about the top 15 in some of the major polls. So look, Helix, they're in a good spot. I mean, they have this game at home, right? So they got to come out of a win somehow against these teams, with Cathedral or Saints, because they got to play Oaks Christian as well.
Yeah.
That's why you're pointing to them possibly having that start. So somewhere they've got to get a win. Actually, these wins aren't going to hurt them necessarily in the long run. They're in Division I, but they got to get one of those wins either this week somehow or beat Saints in order to have a shot at the Open Division final, I think, as long as they win league.
Yeah, because it's a 3 or 4 team race in league. I mean, as of right now, if Helix can pull out one of these wins or play well in all 3 games, I think they can use that. That'll be the confidence booster to go into league. And when was the last time you and I discussed that? I mean, I can't remember. In my 20 plus years of covering high school football,
these games also toughen you up for league. No matter what happens out there. I mean, in Helix, they have plans to, not share. That's the Helix plan. I mean, after this, they have plans to not share the league title. So
yeah. But my recommendation: get out there early because it's going to be a packed house.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt Cathedral right now, especially at Helix, where there is a lot of room, but this week there's not going to be a lot of room, and this game is going to attract, just because of Cathedral, I don't want to say hype. There's no hype surrounding this team. People are going to see this team because they are one of the best teams in the country, and it's going to attract attention from just casual people in the county that want to go out to see such a highly ranked high school football team.
Well, and one more thing, if you can't be at the game, listen to the game on. I think they're going to be broadcasting it 97.3 FM, The Fan, either on the radio or on the app if there's no on the radio if there's no Padre game, and then of course if there is, you can listen to it on their app. So that's how big this game is going to be. That it's going to be broadcasted by an actual radio station.
And Adam, what about we talked about the Braves in Claremont? I just want to mention it again because it's so big for the Braves to keep going. Anything else on that game? I think we touched on it pretty good.
I think if the Braves can, like I said, get past the bus ride, that's always tough. I don't care how much experience you got. Getting kids on a bus for a varsity football game is always an interesting ordeal. If they can come out and, strike first and keep the pressure, I think they can, go to 4-0. Yeah. Against the Chieftains. I think it's going to be a pretty good game, but in the end, like you and I've discussed, I think El Cajon should come out on top.
Yeah, I'm just kind of moving these, I think, in order of kind of excitement and importance and how neat the game is. So I think that's just neat. I expect the Braves to win, and I think
yeah, like I said, if they win, you just think of how much enthusiasm on campus and whatnot's going to build for that 5th game. I mean, to be 4-0, let's just say if they win, go 4-0 after not winning a game in 2 years, 2 years or more. I mean, it's awesome. And I know people, I've heard it on other shows, and I've heard it like, oh, they're 3-0. Who are they playing and whatnot? But you know what? 3-0 is 3-0.
Oh yeah.
You can't control your schedule. You play the teams.
Oh, and considering everything that's going on with our teams right now, I mean, Steel Canyon notwithstanding, I think they're kind of still the story a little bit, especially with Helix playing this really tough schedule. They're going to have losses. Granite Hills, they got knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten there. And Valhalla certainly, I think, is right up there with this El Cajon Valley story. But because, the 2 long losing streaks, I think Valhalla and El Cajon Valley right now, such a great story. Adam, Christian and Monta Vista, last year that game went to overtime. You know what? it could go to overtime again if the number falls right.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty evenly matched game. There's no dominant player like there was last year, no dominant player or players, I should say. That game, because it's at Granite Hills, right? Because it was at Monta Vista last year, right? Was right?
I'm checking right now. I just made some notes. I thought this one was at Monta Vista, and it was at.
Okay.
I mean, the game last year, and I can't remember 1 year back. That's how sad this is. But it says Christian at Monta Vista, so we're
okay. So it's out in Spring Valley. Okay. I think obviously home field advantage does play a part in the game, so that they're going to be playing in front of the Monarch fans. That that will obviously be a big boost to the Monarchs, or to the Mighty Monarchs. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a pretty evenly game in my opinion. If Monta Vista can establish that run with Gardner, and the defense, anchored by Schmidt, if they can, they obviously won't have to deal with a mighty passing game like they did last week against Patrick Henry. Not saying that Christian doesn't have a passing game, but I don't think it's going to be as potent, I should say.
Adam, on Saturday, a former Christian, we talked about it just a little bit, but former Christian wide receiver Jesse Matthews, who got in the starter at San Diego State, had 5 receptions in San Diego State's first ever victory over the UCLA Bruins. How about that?
That's awesome. He's a walk-on. He's going to hopefully get a scholarship out of all this. It's awesome to see our East County alumni doing big things at all levels of football, whether it be, the community college or semi-pro or Canadian or even professional in the NFL. It's just awesome to see them doing their thing at the next level, especially in a game like you said, at the Rose Bowl in front of however many, whatever the crowd was. Didn't look very big, but even still, to get the first win in 100 years against UCLA, as how bad they are. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a historically bad UCLA football team. Let's not go crazy here.
No, we're all a college football show, but I wanted to say, this is UCLA is no better right now, record-wise, or with Chip Kelly, since he's come in there, and we kind of drew the comparison, Jamon, and leaving San Diego State to choose UCLA, and
right.
San Diego State's going to play UCLA, and San Diego State's never beat UCLA, and here we are. I mean, I can remember when San Diego State played that incredible game against UCLA and lost to all those John Lee field goals, the game that we thought we were going to win, and it was like 9-0 or 9-6 or something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
That first Aztec game this season, where I was like, man, they might go to UCLA and lose the game 9-0, and it was tough and grinded out, but that was incredible, and well, here we are. I'm talking about Aztec football now.
No, but it's all right though. Going back to the Monta Vista game, one note of I think needs to be mentioned. Ron Hamamoto, guy's an incredible coach. If you know anything about San Diego high school football, he's a name that everybody should know about, and should know about. He's been around for 33 years as a head coach. Here's a crazy stat. He's made the playoffs 29 out of his 33 years. That's impressive. But more impressive more than that is the fact that he only needs one more win and he'll tie the legendary former Morse coach John Shacklet with 227 wins all time. Right now, he's at 226 wins. Interestingly enough, he's actually the active all-time leader. Behind him is actually Coach Gilster up at Valley Center with 223. Rob Gilster, who's also been around quite a while as well, with his 223 victories. Hamamoto, he's developed 10 head coaches, so you can kind of call it the Hamamoto coaching tree, if you will. Such an amazing gentleman. Just reading up on him, and as you know, you've talked to the man. I've talked to him, over the last few years, and he is such an interesting person. Coached at Rancho Bernardo, Lincoln, of course, Monta Vista. Um, Congratulations, kudos to him. Especially if they win on Friday night to get that win and move on up, into the coaching all-time win ranks.
Yeah, right now, I mean, look at Coach Hamamoto. We kind of kid him about, his youthful enthusiasm and exuberance and his youthful looks. And I think there's no reason why Coach isn't going to continue to do it for many more years.
Right.
And continue up those years. You got to be around a while to get all those wins.
Oh, yeah.
But, no reason to stop right now, Coach Ron. You're talking about guys at the next level. And we saw a guy this weekend. I saw some video. We had a guy out there in Steel Canyon. Thomas Fishburne played for San Diego Mesa, and they beat Southwestern in an interesting college game, 14-4. But hey, Steel Canyon, they're ranked number 6 or number 5, and a lot of the media folks polls right now. That's probably where you got them as well. And they're going to go on to take on Bonita Vista on the road. Steel Canyon, they're expected to win. Bonita Vista, they have 2 wins. This might be a little bit tough, but Steel Canyon, they're expected to win, so they better win.
Yeah, they should win. They should win that game, and I would think they should win semi-big as well. That game, if it's not over by half, it's one of those games that you would think would be over by halftime. Just looking at the computer stuff and everything, but they should win.
Dave, we talked about Westview at Granite Hills. Anything else to add? I think Granite Hills, they expected to win.
Yeah, they should win that game. Granite, like I said, should bounce back nicely after a disappointing loss. It's not a season buster as you per se, but it's one to to chew on and think about and fix some stuff and move on and go from there.
Mount Miguel at Santa Fe Christian. Mount Miguel, they're going to be able to score, I think, in this game, and maybe a typical Mount Miguel game. They're underdogs in this game. Santa Fe Christians look pretty good. We know they beat Christian pretty soundly, and so I'd expect Santa Fe Christian to be, the favorite in this game, maybe by even upwards of 10 points.
Yeah, Santa Fe Christian, they're an interesting squad. Even when they don't have the horses, they always play the bigger opponent tough. They play physical football. A couple years ago, everybody thought, we all thought Christian was going to, when they played them at home, we thought they would, run up and down the field on them. But, Santa Fe Christian punched them in the face and won that game pretty convincingly, interestingly enough. I'm not saying it's going to happen this week, but it could happen. I think Mount Miguel will score points with Laverdier and Pompey. Excuse me. I think that combo will score a couple touchdowns, and Laverdier will have his game. Well, let's just see how defense. See if the defense can come up big for the Matadors.
Fasten your seatbelts. Patrick Henry is at El Cap. I'm going to set the over/under at 72 points.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be better than last year when El Cap dominated Patrick Henry. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a track meet up and down the field, up and down, up and down. Like you said, 72. I don't that sounds good to me. I mean, if it's less than that, I'll be shocked. I'll be kind of shocked. Just considering the fact that both quarterbacks can throw and the run games are pretty decent. Maybe not be a lot of defense, obviously. So I think it will come down to who can make the last stand.
in talking to Coach Berner before the San Diego game, he said that they would try to more establish the run against San Diego and maybe try to get physical with the smaller roster of the Cavers, and it did work. Like I said, in the first half, they were able, but it was the big plays of San Diego, the big time speed. Now, there's some fast guys on Patrick Henry, but I don't know if they're San Diego fast guys on Patrick Henry. So I think that's the equalizer. And right now, I mean, maybe Henry is expected to win because of their 2-1 record, El Cap 0-3. But this is the one where you think maybe if they're going to get an upset, I think it would be a little bit of an upset if El Cap wins just because they're 0-3 start. But certainly it's not out of the question that this is going to be a close game.
Yeah, most definitely. If El Cap can neutralize the big 6'5" tight end for Henry, I think that will, he'll get his catches and numbers, I would think. And then, of course, Jesse Kai, I think will get his numbers as well. If El Cap can, like I said, can establish the run game, I think they can control the ball. I think that's going to be key. Control the ground game, control the clock, and keep the Henry offense off the field as much as possible.
Adam, Valhalla and Hilltop is really one of the featured matchups in the county because you have a game where two undefeated teams are playing, and that's not very common this week now that we're approaching week 4. So we have 2-0 Valhalla right now playing as good football as they have in several years. Hilltop 3-0, they definitely are looking great as well. And hey, as strong as Valhalla has looked and the level of victories that they has increased their power rating dramatically early in the season. They are underdogs to this Hilltop team right now, but I think Valhalla could go in there and win. Hilltop is, I believe, expected to win by the numbers.
Yeah, just because of their offense, the quarterback for Hilltop, he'll put up numbers. I think if Valhalla can somehow figure out, make a couple of defensive plays, I think that should play into their thing. I don't think Hilltop's going to be able to stop Baker. I honestly don't. Just from seeing Hilltop last week against El Cap, Donnie Green had his way. Had his way enough that I thought had they been able to run the ball a little more, El Cap could have, held on and pulled out that game. But that was what it was. But honestly, I think if Valhalla can establish the run with Baker should be able to run up and down the field all night long.
Adam, a game I'll be at this week. The Sweetwater is going to take on undefeated Santana, and man, these my Santana Sultans. I say my Santana Sultans because I used to live in the condos behind Round Table, so I'm down with the Sultans. And they should win this game. They should be on full display. This one, I don't want them to take this game lightly. I want to go in there and focus on getting this win and completing the task at hand. But this is one that just sets up so good for Santana. They're going to hopefully get the running clock in the second half. I expect them to stomp.
Oh, they should. No offense to Sweetwater, but if Santana does what they did against Mar Vista, which I honestly thought was, would have been a little more of a game, just because Mar Vista is usually more competitive. So for Santana to do what they did last week was pretty impressive, holding Mar Vista to 100 and something total yards of offense. And it really wasn't until the backups got put in that Mar Vista was able to really move the ball, at least in my opinion. Temple should have his game, should throw another 4 or 5 touchdowns, inching closer to that 40 touchdown mark, like he told me. Like he told me after the game that was his goal for the season. He should have a couple 100 yards passing. Randy Smith should have a night. Same thing with Nathan Hughes. The only thing that I think Santana can work on in this, one of the things that they can work on in the game is the run game. They need to establish the run game with Mutah and so forth. Because yeah, they won 40-0 against Mar Vista, but the run game didn't really, should have put up bigger numbers, in my opinion. They need to establish that run game. If they can do that and get that going for the rest of the year, they'll be more tougher. Not that they already aren't.
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You talked about El Cajon Valley and their top 4 seeding right now, anyway, in the computer rankings as it relates to Division 5, and right now it's a real big deal. Championship fever. I don't want to say it right now, but you see those cool banners that they're putting around Santana with the players on the light posts. Big as life, larger than life, and that's because right now the Santana Sultans, they're on top of the Division 4 power rankings. They are right now expected to compete for that championship, and I could see them against any of those teams. In fact, wouldn't it be interesting to see a team like Patrick Henry and Santana in the Division 4 championship game? Santana's already dispatched of Sarah kind of handily. We know that Santana can beat La Jolla Country Day. So, Escondido's up there too. They're number 2, but Patrick Henry has looked so good, so impressive, and played a much tougher schedule than Santana that to me just stands out to be exciting to have their quarterback and their passing game and the Santana offense meet in a big game down the line. But what do you think, Santana? You got them number 1 in that Division 4 right now.
They're definitely the favorite. I mean, I said it before the season started. When I saw the divisions come out, they are one of the favorites to go to the championship game in Division 4. There's no if, and, buts about it. If they don't, is it a failure? In my honest opinion, it would be very disappointing if they're not in that championship game.
Get to the that championship game. Yeah, we want Final Four. We want more than that, but everything's looking pretty great right now. How about Olympian and Grossmont? Grossmont, hey, Olympian played pretty tough against Torrey Pines, so let's not look past them. If you look at the rankings, the numbers, the stats, Grossmont's pretty handily expected to win this game, pretty comfortably. But I want to caution them. Olympian played very tough against a good Torrey Pines team, and in a low scoring game. So, Grossmont, hey, they could score, 21 points here. They could score 49 points here. What do you expect? I think that they'll do the latter. I think they'll get a pretty comfortable win, but watch out.
Yeah, I think Grossmont, if they keep running the offense the way that they've done the last couple of games, on all cylinders, I think, like you said, they should win pretty comfortably. If Olympian can come out and establish ball control and keep that Grossmont offense off the field again, like we've talked about, as much as possible, the game could be closer than what pundits like you and I think it will be.
Okay, Adam, one last game. Looks like about a minute and a half here to go.
Sure.
We're doing an hour, and that sounds really great. Always good to talk about these games and get my mind clear as I'm thinking towards next week. Chula Vista at West Hills. We talked about it a little bit. West Hills needs a win. They better win. Chula Vista hasn't won yet, so West Hills at home should beat the Spartans.
I expect fully that the Wolfpack will bounce back to get the win against the Spartans. 10 points or more, I expect. It's from in front of their home crowd. So yeah, I think Coach Ash has got the game plan. He's going to prepare his troops. I think West Hills should win by more than 10 points.
All right. Well, Adam Paul, ECPreps, thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it. I know you're probably sitting in your top 10 tonight. I know everybody in the county. Adam, okay, give me this. We got 30 seconds. Why are 2 people voting for Saints last week as the number 1 team in San Diego? Do they think that the Saints are like the number 1 team in the country? The Saints are a great football team. They're the number 2 ranked team in San Diego. They're really good. And 2 people think that they are better than Cathedral Catholic even before last week's win over nationally ranked Centennial.
Yeah, I don't know, Moni. I don't know. I mean, Yeah.
Some people say, Adam, you know what, this is my number one team until they get beat, and they stick by that. And sometimes I do too when it's marginable and you don't know and it's a coin flip.
Right.
But this Cathedral team. This is one of the top 10 teams in the country, one of the top 3 teams. Who knows? Maybe they could knock off one of those superpower. Maybe they could knock off who. But still, who's voting for them number one? Look, we know Cathedral 1, Saints 2. There's a little bit of debate. Some people are keeping Helix 3. I've knocked them down because I lost. But Lincoln, Mission Hills, Steel Canyon, right there. And Granite, maybe they're falling just out after the loss last week. You might have them, 10, 11, 9, 12, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing with your poll? Any news there?
No, I mean, Granite, like you said, between 9 and 12, I'd have to go look to see what the results were. Helix, I definitely knocked down.
Grossmont in the top 10?
Yeah, I probably.
Last week?
What's that?
They were off a bye, so I don't know if I asked you last week. Did you say you had them at 10 last week?
Yes, 9 or 10, I think it was. I can't remember.
They're not going to move. No, so they're not moving down. They're in your top 10.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, just impressive as they've been. I mean, I know, like I said, they beat Mater Dei, they beat Mira Mesa. 9 or 10.
Yeah. I was just hesitant to move them above Granite Hills because Granite Hills had done so much great work to earn their ranking over the last year and a half. I know there's been a little bit of turnover, and you see with the veteran quarterback in Odom, and the Eagles got caught up a little bit in that game with Madison. They're a little bit. They've got a younger quarterback. Very, very fertile team will move Grossmont, I think, ahead of Granite Hills for the time being, just based off of the result last week. No shame in losing to Madison. So.
Oh, absolutely not.
All right. Okay, my friend Adam Paul, ECPreps. I'm Ramon Scott. Good night, and thank you for joining us.
Good night.